Hello again. Conversion phases elements, once again our theme for this tutorial. The first time I've been talking about this conversion phases, I showed you this chart, the creational chart, and I mentioned that the conversion phases, or the more common term elements, they are a dynamic principle where one principle floats into the other. The wood supports or creates the fire creates earth, the earth gives birth to metal, and metal enriches the water once again helps wood to grow. So that's the creational cycle. And today we are going to do a closer look at all the relations between those aspects. Why? Because it's very important to understand if you want to use your exercises in a more specific way, if you want to balance a certain condition, you need to know which exercise to choose in order to target that specific condition you want to work on. The solution to that is either you can sit your ass down and learn all those things by heart, or you can understand this concept once, and then no matter which type of movement of the Qigong principles that are used in China you come across, you'll be able to adapt to your liking. Now, we're gonna jump right into some other aspects. Now what we have here are two more cycles. We have a control cycle and we have the support cycle. I'm going to run you through that just very quickly so that you get an understanding. Obviously, wood can cut or dig into earth. So wood controls earth because you can take a stick and use this stick to dig a hole into the earth. Now the earth controls water because the earth can take on water. So if you pour a bottle of water on dry earth, this dry earth will suck this water up. Water obviously controls fire, no need to explain there. Fire also obviously controls metal, because if you have fire that's hot enough, then the metal will melt. And obviously with metal you can actually cut wood. So that's the control cycle. The control cycle is important to our movements at all those points where one of the conversion phases in your life, in your body, is at a max or at a too much. What could be a too much? A too much, for instance, could be too much aggression, too much anger, too much rage in your system, no matter the cause. If you want to balance the wood, if you want to balance this aggressional part, this feeling uneasy, this feeling on edge, this feeling grumpy part, using the exercise of the Badren Shin, the exercise number 7, which is the exercise for the wood element, for the liver, would not be a good idea. What you have to do instead is do more of the exercise number 4, because the exercise number 4 is the exercise for the lungs, which are metal. So if you want to control one element because it gets out of control, what you need to do is check in the control cycle which one of the elements representing a certain exercise in the Badren Shin sets do I have to perform more often, do I have to perform in an increased pace in order to control this other element or this other aspect in my life, in my physical expression, my psychological expression. So that's why the control cycle. The support cycle, obviously, is important for the same reasons. The more we understand which exercise we can use in order to balance out another organ, the better. Now, the Chinese philosophy, one of the main principles there, they hardly ever touch something where they know there's a problem. So say you have a problem in your earth element. All right, you have a problem in your earth element, maybe because the wood is too strong and your earth gets off balance. If your earth gets off balance, if you have eaten too much sweets or for whatever reason, then you have to balance out, you have to strengthen the earth element. In order to do that, it's a bad idea to directly jump into the earth concept, into, for instance, exercise number 3. You can use exercise number 3 to balance yourself out, but exercise number 3 is not so much to strengthen the earth element. Why? Because if you have a problem somewhere, the body is already in distress at that point. And that's the same thing with many therapies. Some therapies, they jump right into the problem and try to solve the problem where it actually is. It's a good idea to take a look at that, but to solve the problem, you quite often, not always, but quite often, need resources that are untainted. An untainted resource, in this case, could be the water, because water supports earth. Without water, in nature, earth is not fertile. It needs water in order to get sticky, in order to get wet, to give birth to plants. Which is then why earth supports wood, because without earth, no tree could stand. It needs something where its roots can grow into and where it gets its minerals. And so if you want to strengthen the earth element, in the exercises, it would be a good idea to increase training the number 6 exercise, which is the exercise for the kidneys, to support the water element in yourself, which then would automatically be the resource, the untainted resource, to support the earth element. And that's exactly how all those things work. There is one more cycle I want to talk to you about. Obviously, this one, the support circle, is the exact opposite of the control cycle. And to understand that alone is already a good achievement, because it means that you only have to remember one cycle and then just turn it around. So it gets easier and easier. If you dig into it, it also can get quite complex, but the basis of all this philosophical background and all this, what do I train to do or to support which problem or to support which training aspect, the basic principles are extremely simple. So there is one more cycle. Quite windy today. Obviously, we had this creational cycle. The creational cycle, fire creates earth, creates metal, creates water, creates wood, creates fire. And now, once again, we have the exact opposite. I told you before in the last tutorial we were talking about this cycle, that the creational cycle in the physical sense can also be called the tonifying circle. Tonifying means to increase energy level in the body. To tonify is to put more energy, more tension, more alertness in your structure. Now, and more energy equals more ability to do something. Now, there is one more. One more interesting circle, and that's the sedation circle. The sedation circle let me just stick this here. Now, the sedation circle is the exact opposite of the creation, the tonifying circle. So fire diminishes wood, wood diminishes water, water diminishes metal and minerals, minerals diminish the earth, and the earth once again diminishes the fire. Why? Well, actually you can also put out a fire by using earth. Yeah? If there is too much earth and not enough nutrients for the fire, which would be, for instance, wood, obviously the fire will die. Fire obviously consuming wood, that's easy to understand. Wood consuming water, also water consuming metal or consuming minerals. Not that much consuming, but dissolving them, thus enriching itself. And minerals are in earth, metal is in the earth. But in order to be formed, crystals that grow in the earth, they use trace elements that are in the earth, so they diminish the earth. The sedation cycle is a cycle that you can use if there is too much of something. For instance, if someone is in a complete conversational flow and you can't stop this person, it's almost on the manic side of the fire element, then you can use the earth to calm this person down. So if someone is and completely stressed out and completely out there, then it's a good element and you just can't get off your stress. Then it's a good element to choose is just take the earth element, take your third exercise, which is this one, the lifting one arm. Take this exercise, perform that exercise more often, and you'll be able to balance the fire quite nicely. Much more so than using the fire exercise itself. I'm going to talk about that a little later more. Just to give you an idea, does this mean I only do this exercise? Not necessarily. If it's really a difficult thing to perform the whole set of movements at this given time, then I suggest you just choose the right exercise and perform it a couple of times. Say, in order for this to work properly, say 6, 12, maybe 24 times, just this one exercise. If you have the time, it's always better to do the whole set of movements. Because once you do the whole set of movement, you make sure that the energy flow between all other aspects is balanced as well. Not just the one single aspect that you want to balance. And it's always a holistic approach in Chinese philosophy, in Chinese movement system, and in Chinese traditional medicine. So that's important. The holistic approach is key for those things to work. So if you can, perform the whole set, but increase the number of repetitions, to use the last example, for instance, of the earth element. Say you do the whole set using 4 repetitions for each exercise. Just for the earth, you use 8 or 12 repetitions in order to boost the earth element even more, to boost this stomach, spleen, pancreas area even more, thus controlling in a positive way the heart. It's not so much a caging it as it is a calming it down without limiting its expression. And that's very important. The control cycle and the sedation cycle are quite different. The control cycle actually sets borders. So if you use your metal to control your wood, your aggression, then you actually use straight mental aspects and arguments. You set borders, thus limiting the expression of something that went too far. But if you use the sedation, you don't limit the expression. You don't say, oh, you don't have to talk that much, you must reduce your talking. You don't do that. You do the opposite. You strengthen the part in yourself where you can find your center, where you can find your inner peace, and the necessity to talk that much, the necessity for all that stress suddenly dissolves itself. And that's what's the difference between the sedation and the control cycle. I hope that gives you a small idea of how to use those principles. You'll find all those charts in my tutorial here as well, to take a look at them in closer detail. So take your time, study them, look at this clip again, try to think about what I said, and the things that I told you about the different elements, like how the different elements are connected with nature. Those things will help you to understand and will help you to actually find workable ways in your life how to actually use those basic principles. Those cycles, they are the basic principles. All the details of, and metal is the structured thing, is the honesty. On the other side, it's difficult for metal to let go. All those things, those are the basic information. That's the basic principle. Put basic information and basic principle together, and what you get is a perfectly working system for a lot of problems that can be solved with it. And it will give you a great way to enhance your training far further than just performing the exercises every day the same way. That's why I think it's extremely important to include something like that into a tutorial covering certain exercises for your health. Have fun with it. If any questions arise, just let me know, write me an email. That goes in general for this tutorial. If you have any questions, write me an email. I'll do my best to answer it as far as I'm somewhere close an internet connection.